Final score at Dens Park, Celtic 3, Dundee 0, and I don't know, not the prettiest at times. It looked like it was going to be one of those afternoons, but Celtic came good in the end. This is Tino with the Final Whistle Show, joined here by James. James, how did you enjoy the Mikey Johnston show?
I'll quote San Fran in the comments here. His line was Mikey Johnston kicking the doors off the Last Chance Saloon. I think that's pretty much spot on. A funny game. Like I said, top of the day, I'd take any kind of 3 points today. Just so important to get that win. Dundee were well organised, stuck to their task, physical. Referee let them away with a lot of stuff. Maybe come to that. But got the job done. You can understand fans saying that's really hard to watch, but you can't deny that the kind of very mature possession play that Brendan sets you up for. It does create the opportunities to score goals. We didn't score as many as we should, but it's the ball retention, it's the slow, patient build up. We'd like it to be faster, there's no denying that, but it is effective. So you've kind of got to go with it, especially in a sticky patch that we're just getting out the other side of. So yeah, and a correct prediction for yourself, I believe.
Well, I called it 3-0 to you before the game on WhatsApp. I can't remember if I called it right in the pre-match.
You won, you said in the pre-match.
I'm sure somebody will remind me that I got it wrong again, but I'll take it. Yeah, it is slow, patient build-up, but ultimately, my concern is if you're not creating the chances, if you've set up as a coach in a certain way and there's no chances and you're just coming to the final third and there's nothing happening at all. We are creating chances. Kyogo's missed a big chance. Palmer's missed a big chance. We've been knocking the door. What have we had? Yeah. 23 corners, 39 shots on goal, albeit not as many on target as you'd like to see. Celtic are creating chances, and that's down to how we're set up there. So you can argue it's not as good to watch. It's not as fluent as Ange, and I don't think many folk would argue against that. That's just the facts of the matter. Different coaches playing different ways. I liken it to, see, if you watch a video or something on YouTube and you play it at 1.5 times speed or even 2 times speed, that's maybe Ange ball. Rodgers is back to your normal 1 times pace, and it's not quite as enjoyable to watch, but it's more controlled. So that's the rub. You can't. There's always a compromise with different coaches. Some will have more of this, less of that, and that's just the way Brendan Rodgers plays. But undeniable, not even a question here. But Celtic thoroughly deserving of a 3-0 win, if not more.
Yeah, exactly. There was, any other result in a strong Celtic win would have been a travesty there. I mean, at half time, I wasn't at least a bit worried because they were doing everything right, bar scoring. I mean, you're doing everything right, the goals will come, and they did. So, yeah, it was the right result.
Yeah. What about the starting lineup? I think that's Celtic's 27th game of the season. I'll double check, but I think it's 27 games for the season. Very rare we've started the same lineup 2 in a row, but we've seen that today. So it's another chance for Bernardo. It's another bit of game time for Maeda. More chance for Kyogo to get back on the goal trail. But what did you think of the lineup in general? And did you think that certain guys took their chance?
It was the lineup I kind of called for, so I was happy enough with it. As much for the consistency as anything else. I can't think of any game this season. We've 2 games back to back. We played the same starting 11. It's been so chop change with injuries and various other things and form and whatever. So good to see the consistency. You've said all through the last certainly few months, inconsistent lineups lead to inconsistent performances. So I think getting that consistency back in is really important. In terms of who took their chances, look, Bernardo he's done the same as he did against Livy. He's not done anything wrong. Thought he disappeared for large patches. He's popped up with some nice stuff. He's got his goal. Just a really hard player to work out. Can't work him out myself. So he didn't do anything wrong. So he probably starts on Saturday. Dies in, good to get the game time. Pretty stinking, I would say. Even Yang, when he came on, was showing a wee bit more than Dies in. Palmer, lively, involved, can't take a corner to save his life. Blah, blah, blah. There's lots of good and bad throughout today, but it's the end that justifies the means.
Yeah, individually, there's guys that are definitely not quite at themselves, no more so than Maeda, actually. And I'd have to say his output was next to zero. He brought next to nothing to the party. He ran about. Who was the kid at left back? Owen Beck.
Yeah, Beck, yeah. He did well.
Decent left back, had a decent game, but he's completely dominated Maeda. Maeda's, I don't know if he's got by on ones. He's giving you all the Maeda stuff that you become used to. He runs out the park, he overcooks it bounces off him, all those kind of things. But do you know what? He'll start on Saturday because we know that that's the requirement against James Tavernier as much as anything, and pinning them in. And Rangers will have to be far more open than most, if not all, other sides that we face. In terms of Paulo Bernardo, James, the guy for Celtic Exchange tweeted just at the start of the game, Paulo Bernardo seems to have a bit more about him here in the early stages. He needs to be doing more in general to try and cement that third midfield place in the team. Goals, assists and drives into the box. He's clearly checked his Twitter at half-time because he's gone and taken that message on board and grabbed his goal. And it's a scrappy goal, isn't it? But it's the all-important goal that Celtic need in that kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, he's found himself in a good position. And he was making those runs, that himself and O'Reilly both do. It's a good ball from Palmer, another assist, I suppose. But when he's down at the byline, he seems to be more interested in the cross, and then he finds himself kind of pretty much, a yard from the goal line. So he just, if in doubt, just stick it in the back of the net kind of thing. Very strange. Goalie was poor for me, which I'm happy with because he was outrageous with some of his antics, the goalie. So, yeah, good to see that.
Yeah, let's get into that because Trevor Carson, ex-Motherwell, I remember at the time Celtic were strongly linked with him, and I think Motherwell blocked a move, and I think he was pretty annoyed at the time. Celtic were going to bring him in to do what would probably be the Scott Bain type role just now, but anyway, he was linked, never got the move, and the rest is history. But his tag teaming with Shaughnessy on Carter Vickers for 2 corners was just
2 or 3.
I mean, you see what penalties are getting given for just now for certain teams, slight jersey pulls, all that stuff. He smothered Carter Vickers with his gloves at one point, and then he said a wee kick out of him after as well. Nothing to see here on VAR. Is it Greg Aitken that was on VAR? Who was also on VAR for Rangers Motherwell the other day. Nothing to see here. And there's the time of complaining is when you win 3-0, right? So if we'd have drawn nothing each, this would have sounded sour grapes. But let's just call it what it is. That's a penalty all day long in the modern game. And what you're seeing is inconsistencies across the board. Paranoid or not, Celtic certainly seem to be refereed to a different standard when it comes down to what is and what isn't a penalty. What's your version of that and how that's not been given?
First of all, I've said it before, it's not Celtic that have been refereed to a different standard. It's every other team apart from Rangers that's refereed to a different standard. Shaughnessy's got both hands gripping CCV's jersey, and Carson's got his arms wrapped around his neck from behind. It's just ridiculous. My issue with it, really, right? Of course, the refereeing team's got to see it, but where are Celtic at the next corner not saying a goalie to the ref, you need to be watching this? We're just the nicest team in the league. We'd let stuff like that go. We don't make enough noise, and referees just pay no attention unless you're going to make a song and dance about it. And the only one I can remember really screaming for something and getting it was Mikey Johnston. We got a penalty a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
he's the only one that does it, and we need to be doing it to a man. Just ridiculous. And like you say, there's VAR there. So what's Greg Aiken seeing if he's not seen that as a penalty? It's not a sending off; it's a booking and a penalty. But it's consistent. It's every single corner. Then Scales got up well for a header just before that, and his jersey was getting tugged. So what are penalties, or to what team are they penalties? It's just got to stop. It's not paranoia. You can take that out of your head.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Celtic's players do need to be making more about it, and I think we need to be giving the referee decisions to be making. And I understand that Don Robertson can't see everything that's going on in the box, but he's had to then go and have a word with Carter Vickers and Carson, so he's aware of it. Similar to Celtic's penalty that we won against Feyenoord, where Liam Scales was having a tussle with the guy. The ref clocks it, gives them all a warning before the corner gets taken, and Celtic get the penalty. And I thought something like that was going to play out because Shaughnessy and Trevor Carson couldn't help themselves. They were all over Carter Vickers. It was clearly a problem for them. One thing that really frustrated me around that spell, and this was when Celtic were getting some of their 23 corners, is the one that Louis Palmer puts into the side netting. One of several they put into the side netting. At that point, the pressure's on Dundee, the pressure's on the ref, the pressure's on everyone to make a call. Tensions are high in the box, and it was up to Celtic to keep the pressure on. And Louis Palmer just releases all that pressure for Dundee by putting out the park. And I don't know. So you and I disagree on Louis Palmer. I think it's fair to say. I really like him. I think he's a talented player. You'll have seen the stat that came up at one point, I don't know, an hour into the game, saying that he'd created 9 chances in the game compared to the next best, which was 3. He does create chances. He does do good things. he also does frustrating things, and that corner's one example of several. Where are you at with him? As you say, he's had another assist, if you want to call it that, and we will call it that for Bernardo's goal. But what's your general take on him at the moment and in the bigger picture?
At the moment, he's doing some stuff great, some stuff bad. In the bigger picture, he's a player under development for me. I don't think he's the finished article. There's no player really should be. Should always be wanting to improve. But I think he's got a lot to improve upon. And I just think he's a product of our signing policy. You get some excellent stuff out of him, but you'll get inconsistency, and that's what development players give you. So, I mean, where is he going to play on Saturday? Because Dyson will probably take up that berth. He's not so effective on the right. I think he loves stepping inside as he showed today, and he showed in the last few weeks. But inconsistent for me. Do you not find him inconsistent?
I do. Part of me takes the good with the bad. It's a wee bit Rio Hatate. Like, Rio Hatate's the guy that takes chances for Celtic. He's not as safe as other midfielders, and he will try that through ball or that defence splitting pass or that speculative shot when others would be a bit more cautious, particularly somebody like David Turnbull, for example. And part of me likes that. I like rolling the dice and seeing what happens and taking chances in the final third. So Louis Palma does a bit of that. And when it comes off, it's great. The outside of the boot cross, the shot from distance, all that kind of stuff. So when it comes off, brilliant. You're delighted for him. But likewise, sometimes when it doesn't come off, it looks really cheap. So I don't know. I think his consistency will get better the more that he plays. He's still a very young footballer, and he'll still be finding his feet to an extent here at Celtic and in Glasgow. So I'd like to think he'll get better, but I can completely understand the frustrations that yourself and others feel. But I think you've caveated it with the fact that he is a development player. It's not Louis Palma's fault that he now starts every game for Celtic because we didn't recruit better, because we signed guys like Marco Tilio, who's nowhere to be seen. We signed Yang, who's less developed than Palma, for example. So there's lots of stuff at play. I like Palma. I think he's the kind of guy that can unlock defences, but I completely get your frustration. I'm going to jump into one of the comments. There's a comment from Robert McKeown. Robert's a good friend of the show, and he's highlighted, I think, what a lot of us are thinking at this moment in time. His comment goes as follows: can we all agree that Maeda can't play in the right? Awful performance, and it really affects the balance. Alistair Johnston looks terrible with Maeda there. And I think that second part's really important, James, because I think creatively Alistair Johnston is way off it. And I think he's got a lot of dig and a lot of desire and a lot of drive, and I like him defensively. Going forward, he's gone back the way. We know he's capable of so much more, but he gets in that, at least in the opposition's half, if not the final third, and there's nothing good happening. Nothing good from him up there. And I don't know if having Maeda up there is affecting him or not. Maybe that's giving Johnston a bit more benefit of the doubt than he should be getting. But what do you think of those two linking up on the right?
It'd be hard to really judge Johnston, I suppose, without a flying wing in front of him, somebody knows he can trust. But I suppose in saying that, like, you're seeing him linking with his right winger, and he's finding himself in attacking positions and just falling to pieces, like behaving like a guy who's never seen a football before, just flicking out legs and not able to find a cross. I'm a big fan of Johnston, like you. Defensively, I think he's fairly flawless. Loves a tussle, really strong, pacey. But then when he wins these challenges, he's set up to go forward. I don't know how much experience he's got doing that. I think it's a relatively new thing for him, whereas teams would play, you're the right back, win the ball, give it away, get back in your corner. It's just not like that at Celtic. So again, I suppose what you're seeing there is a guy in need of development. Even despite his experience and his prowess as a defender, he needs to develop as an attacking player, or his attacking attributes. At the moment, I agree. I think he's gone back in that regard. Maybe if we see some consistency in the right wing for him, it could help, because then he can rely on it more. He can, take chances that he otherwise maybe isn't taking. Maeda was no help to him today, obviously. And you're finding he's coming out, he's getting his head up, and he's going, that's not an option. So he's having to bring it inside and start the horseshoe, and it's safe passes and all this kind of stuff. So I think there's development required, no doubt, but he's my right back.
He is, and it's the correct choice. But it comes down to something I've said before. I think Miff's used the term as well, that Alistair Johnston, Greg Taylor, Louis Palma, and others, It is not their fault. They are the best players in their current position at this moment in time, or more specifically, it's a failing that there's no genuine competition for them. Now, guys like Johnson may well be the best right back at the club, and you could bring someone in to compete with them, and they might go toe to toe. But ultimately, competition. I'm not going to quote Rodgers again. All right, competition can be the best coach. Somebody breathing down your neck, waiting to take your position, is sometimes the best motivator. Knowing that if you don't play well, knowing that if you don't have a 7, 8, 9 out of 10, you're out for the next game. We've got too many guys. Greg Taylor could have a shocker every day of the week at this moment in time. He'll start the next game. And Alistair Johnson, for the most part, is in the same boat, because Ralston, as likeable as he is, and a lot of fans are fond of Ralston and what he brings, he's definitely, a lesser option than Alistair Johnson. So you've got that going on across the park just now because of the limited wingers. Louis Palmer's always going to start more often than not. So there's just the lack of competition is hurting Celtic at this moment in time, and individuals are getting away with poor performances that they wouldn't get away with elsewhere. I just want to touch on one other guy, James, in terms of the first half. It's Kyogo. It's that brilliant chance. You weren't sure if the flag was going to go up. Turned out it was a brilliant run. He's timed it perfectly. He stayed on side. I think you made the comment, his first touch isn't the best. It doesn't quite set himself. Then he's going a bit wide. He could take it around the goalie, and I think that was Chris Sutton's suggestion. He's clipped it, and listen, it's inches wide, but you've got to score, haven't you?
Yeah, I think his first touch takes it. Like a really good first touch in that position, that Kyogo knows exactly how to play. A really good first touch gives you 2 or 3 options. I can go left, I can go right, I can clip the goalie, I can go around the goalie. That first touch is all important. His touch is poor, and it takes him to a point where he's only got the shot, really. I don't think he could have gone round the goalie at that point. He's too wide. Carson would have steered that out. So it's the first touch, and that's just maybe a lack of confidence in just where he is just now. Like you say, and another day goes in, scuffs off the turf or whatever, pretty much shaved the post. But it was the first touch that killed it for me. And he cut a bit of a frustrated figure, I thought, up until he went off. Not really taking the confidence from the goal on Saturday there. So he's just got to get back in the training pitch, get his work done, get ready for Saturday.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with a lack of application or attitude or work rate from Kyogo. I've seen comments in recent days that Kyogo's chucked it. Absolutely not. He's a very dedicated professional. He works hard at his craft, and like a lot of footballers, a lot of times you can go out of form. That's just the way it goes. And he's clearly a guy that's playing with a lack of confidence, James, and that's what it is. And it's up to him individually and the coaches, Rodgers and otherwise, to try and pick him up for Saturday, because he starts on Saturday, and rightly so. He's shown he can be the man for the big occasion. So let's hope he's just been storing up his goals for the weekend, and we'll see how that goes. First half stats, James, you'll have seen a lot of them. Ball possession, 74% Celtic. Goal attempts, 19 to Dundee's 1, but only 2 of those on target. Corner kicks, 9 for Celtic, none for Dundee. What else? 1 yellow card for Celtic, none for Dundee. It was Liam Scales wiping a guy out, which is fair enough. Dangerous attacks, 72 to 13. And without Celtic, getting the goal and whatever else, there's no doubt that we lacked a cutting edge, but the stats bear out that we were completely dominating this game.
Yeah, that's the thing about, there's a lot of negativity in the kind of Celtic online atmosphere at the moment, after this game, and I just don't see it because it's such a dominant performance. You just need to take a wee bit of a step back and look at it and go, with that type of play and those kind of stats, you're always going to win that game. And winning that game was the only thing that mattered today. The fact that he did it with a few goals, there was some nice playing amongst it. I think maybe a wee bit guilty trying to walk the ball into the net. Mikey showed, albeit, as one of the comments is saying that, Dundee were tiring at that stage. Mikey showed, take a gamble, from outside the box. Something will spill or keeper makes a mistake. I thought before that it was too intricate, and just like I say, trying to pass the ball into the net. Just have a go, see what happens.
Yeah. Can't win the raffle if you don't buy a ticket, James, and Mikey bought a couple today. Comment come in just for you, I think, from Gary Steele. He called you individually a pair of doom and gloom merchants, James, so enough. I don't know if Gary listens much at all, but generally speaking, I don't think we are particularly negative or doom and gloom, but so be it. And listen, it'd be easy to come on at 3-0 and wax lyrical about free-flowing Celtic, cruise to victory, never in doubt and all that kind of stuff. But what we're generally here to do, with the post-match, pre-match shows and the weekly, is to try and kind of look between the scorelines and see what we see, try and reflect what we're seeing on the park and try and give an honest assessment of that. So if Gary doesn't enjoy it, there's nothing much we can do, but everyone's entitled to their opinion and all that kind of stuff. James, get into the second half. So we've not had to wait long for the goal. As mentioned, it's Louis Palmer doing some good stuff on the left. And it's Bernardo making the run at the box that maybe he's not been making so far. And as I say, I know it was quite a scrappy goal and Carson's not covered himself in glory, but Bernardo's got to be there, to have that impact and to ask the question of the goalie. And it's good for his confidence as much as anything to see that. And it's just a goal that unlocked things for Celtic.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, there was still obviously pressure after that because got the second and Dundee could sneak one, all that stuff. But it got us moving, it got us on the road, Yeah, and you're delighted for him because new club, quite a lot of pressure, in and out of the team, playing in Europe, not playing domestic, then starting to cement a domestic place whilst the Watta's out. And as you've said since the start of the season, anyone who's getting their chance, you've got to take it. It's golden assists that keep you in the team, particularly in those positions. And that's what he's done. He's got himself in a good spot, and it's not going to win any goal of the season competitions, but it's one that kind of, like I say, just takes that initial pressure off and lets us start to build. I mean, I think from then on, we were peppering the goal. That's when the real stats started to build up. So, because Dundee, unlike Livingston, did have a bit of self-belief and did start to come out a wee bit, which A, tired them further, and B, left spaces for us that we exploited in the end. So, but fair play to Tony Dock for coming out and having a go and not just settling for, he'd rather get beat 3-0 as 1-0. He's come out and tried to get his draw or even sneak a win. So you've got to commend that.
Yeah, and they've played relatively defensively at times, but they've had their two guys up front. So to an extent, they've been a wee bit more adventurous than some would have been. And then teams like Dundee or whoever else Celtic face domestically, they need to just hope that some of their big players stand up and have a decent game. And I thought Owen Beck had a decent game at left back. Cammy Kerr, limited as he is, done his job on the right-hand side and one or two others digging in for them. And that's all they can ask of their individuals. Celtic's joy is such as short-lived after the goal because Cameron Carter-Vickers hits the turf and it's become an ongoing concern, James. He's obviously got niggling issues. We've debated whether guys like him and Maeda have potentially been rushed back, but what's clear at this moment in time is that Cameron Carter-Vickers isn't operating at 100% capacity, and he's also now got to be a serious doubt for the weekend. I've not heard Brendan Rodgers' comments. Maybe someone can fill us in on that, but whatever way you look at it, it's got to be a concern for Saturday coming.
Sam Fran got it. It was Rodgers has said he's been monitored. He's certainly not said anything concrete, but it's a doubt, and that's enough to warrant concern. Stephen Welsh has got a lot of experience in these ties. I know we are where we are in terms of centre halves and all that stuff. If it comes to it, then I think Welsh can deal with that. It maybe slows us coming out a wee bit, but I think he can stand up to task. He's plenty of experience of the tie, but all being well, CCV's just it was taking off precaution, bit of rest. See how it looks tomorrow morning, maybe even Wednesday, and assess from there. But yeah, I think Maeda definitely, CCV and Alistair Johnston, those two in particular, CCV and Alistair Johnston, I think they've both had fairly long-term injuries in the last 12 months, and coming back from that, there's a natural hesitancy. It looked like a hammy from CCV, which is just the muscles obviously surrounding that knee injury are yet to get up to speed themselves. So it's a concern, but we didn't really have any options of not playing him. If he's fit enough and he needs match fitness, then he's playing, and we're seeing a slightly lesser version of CCV, but he's still the best defender at the club.
Yes, I agree with that. I'll drop a couple of Rangers questions your way between now and the end of the recording, but if it comes to it, are you happy, is that the right word, happy enough with Liam Scales and Stephen Welsh when you're starting centre halves?
Scales is there on form. I don't have long-term ambitions for Scales at Celtic as the first choice centre half, but he's there on form, so you got to go with that. And Welsh, is the experience choice. You can tell, obviously, Rodgers just doesn't rate Lagerbielke. Navrocki's nowhere to be seen. Kobayashi, geez, oh man. So I think even by default, it's Welsh in scales. Phillips, less said, best mended. So yeah, like you say, happy, maybe not the word, but that'd be the choice I'd be going for, yeah.
Yeah, just a comment that's come in there from Henrik McLarson saying that CCV was absent at Ibrox, and he's quite right. It was Lagerbielke in scales that started at Ibrox, wasn't it? So shows it can be done, but you're certainly a better side with Cameron Carter-Vickers in it. So let's see the news on him over the next few days. Couple of subs, James, on the 66-minute mark. It's Yang and O coming on for Daiz Maeda and Kyogo Furuhashi, and I think there's no getting away from the fact that we've kind of covered both of them in different parts here, but Maeda and Kyogo, they're both out of sorts at this moment in time.
They are, but like my comments on Welsh, they know the derby tie well, so they'll both be up for that. So it's a wee bit of a moot point. There's no real discussion to be had because they're both starting on Saturday for me. Maeda's obviously got cover there, and he's just coming back from injury and he's being rushed back. But you now get that game time in his legs, which I thought, if you're looking at things you wanted to achieve today, that was one of the most important things, is getting 60 minutes into his legs. I know you guys were saying bring him off the bench for impact, but I really wanted to see him get some game time, just running about. That's pretty much all he did. It wasn't very effective, but he did some running about, which from a rehab point of view is really good for him ahead of Saturday. So that's where my head is. Yang's an interesting one. I thought first 5 minutes he came on, he was looking lively, looking direct, going at guys, and then kind of shrunk into himself a wee bit. I think mental strength is where he needs to work. Just taking knocks, as in if you didn't get past a guy, get him the next time, get him the time after that. Just keep doing it. So there's talent in Yang, but it's mental training that's needed there. And didn't really get much in the way of clinical service, but had a couple of wee chances, and he tried to make the best of what he had. So decent enough performance.
Yeah, I'd say so. Guys like Yang and Mikey Johnston at the moment, and obviously we'll get to Mikey in a bit of detail shortly, but these guys seem to come into games and be a bit more confident off the bench than they are starting. I think you could easily have started Mikey and Yang on either wing today, and they just don't seem as comfortable at that, but they seem to be confident enough to come off the bench and try and make an impact for the 15, 20, 25 minutes they get. And maybe guys like that just need to build up, to get in the start, because I think Celtic's lack of genuine options in the wings has led to Mikey Johnston and Yang starting games that they possibly shouldn't have, both in terms of maybe match fitness and in terms of confidence levels at this moment in time. And I think you can see the difference in the performances coming off the bench as opposed to starting. Just as we continue, so maybe another 10 minutes or so in the recording, James, 10, 15. But if anyone is tuned into the YouTube live, thanks to guys like Jerry O'Donnell, Frank, Gary Melrose, etc., feel free to ask any questions and we'll do our very best to catch a couple of them before the end of the recording. James, on Mikey Johnston, this isn't time for I told you so's or vindication. Far from, actually. People know that I'm a huge fan of Mikey Johnston, but you need to do a whole lot more than score a couple of goals against Dundee. But it's a step in the right direction. It's what we needed, as you say. He's come on and at least he's looked direct. He's taken the shots that other guys weren't taking, and he's had the character to go and have a go at things. Now, Mikey Johnston's not daft. He's a young guy. He sees social media, hears comments, all that kind of stuff. He knows that a lot of the fan base have given up on him, and you can understand why to a huge extent. But all he can do is come on in a game like that today and try and have an impact. And it's exactly what he's done. And I'm really pleased for him on a personal level. He's got much further to go than today, but he's done his job on the occasion.
Delighted for him as well. I'm delighted for any Celtic player that comes on, and particularly when there's adversity there, he's come on and done a job. If you want to be cute about it, Celtic, then they can look to that performance and say, I mean, his individual stats from coming on to the final whistle will be really impressive. He's 2 goals, but he'd also other chances. He was in about the box causing problems. Celtic got an asset there that they can bring off the bench in the last 15 minutes. We're really, really going to need to pull everyone together between now and May to win this title. And if you've got someone like Mikey that can come on at that stage and either secure your win and let you relax, or get you the crucial goal that gets you the win, whatever it may be, that's where you deploy him, not where he comes on a game and he feels the pressure. I think this season will be it for Mikey at Celtic, but he can go out on a high if he keeps coming on at that particular time and make an impact like that. Because, like I say, we need everyone pulling together between now and May.
Yeah, we really do. And you mentioned it earlier on, but I thought it was a good time to highlight the comment from San Fran, referring to Mikey Johnston, the wee man kicking the doors after last chance saloon. And that's what he has to do. They're the doors that he's standing in front of now. He's had opportunity. You'll have heard that, he had 4 starts on the bounce, he had a couple of particularly poor performances. And what he wasn't doing, and this is where I was comparing him to guys like Louis Palmer. Louis Palmer can have inconsistent games. He can be in and out, but he'll get his assists and he'll get his goals. And Mikey was getting game time, and he wasn't chalking up the numbers. You can also argue about guys like Liel Abada. He's obviously out the picture just now, and hopefully he's back soon. But Abada frustrates at different times, but he gets the numbers, gets his goals, gets his assist. So now Mikey can turn around to today's stats and say, well, listen, what did he come on? He came on in the 83rd minute, 2 goals within, what did we play, 8 minutes overtime? So 15 minutes or so he's come on, grabbed his 2 goals. And what he's effectively done is he's put the game to bed. That would have been a really tense finale had we not get the second goal, let alone the third. Dundee were always likely to break now and then and launch that long throw in into the box with, is it Shaughnessy? And that, as we know, at this moment in time can cause chaos for Celtic. So what Mikey's done is he's come on and done his job, is the long and short of it. You can certainly debate Trevor Carson for the second goal as well as the first. He's made a mess of it. And who cares, because he was at it earlier in the game. But Mikey can only do what he can do. And he's tucked away the third one, his second, with a wee bit of composure. It's been a wee bit of pinball wizard in the box. But he's had the savage just to step onto it and put it beyond the goalie and completely end the game as any sort of contest.
Yeah, that's it. Imagine that board goes up 8 minutes, which God knows where they found 8 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
8 minutes at 1-0, you'd be terrified. So that 8 minutes going up, Mikey's made sure it didn't matter and there was no tension when that did happen because the game's already done by that stage. So yeah, just delighted for him and delighted for the team that they got to relax and they're not stressed in that last 5-10 minutes. So yeah, just good enough.
Yeah. Who would be man of the match for you today? Obviously, it's easy to say maybe Johnston getting his goals, but he's not had long on the pitch. Over the piece, who do you think stepped up?
I was thinking about it through the game. I really don't know. I mean, I kind of want to say Palmer, but no, at those corners. McGregor was a wee bit like himself in parts, and then he was sloppy in possession in others. Johnson was in and out. CCV injured, Scales doing his job. Nobody really stood out for me today. I'm probably defaulting to Palmer. And I suppose if I get to that point, I may as well give it to Mikey because he's come on and secured the win. So no standouts for man of the match for me.
If in doubt, give it to Mikey, James. That's the way. Stats overall. So I've given you the first half stats, but for the game as a whole, ball possession 74% Celtic, 38 goal attempts to 5. Again, only 7 on target. So you want to be up in those numbers. Corner kicks 23-1. I don't know if that's some sort of record, but it's a lot of corners. 1 yellow card each. Dangerous attacks for Celtic, 138 versus 28 for Dundee. That's a funny stat, that one, because I can't remember 28 times feeling that Dundee were looking dangerous on the attack. So I don't know what they base that on. Is it just as soon as you get in the final third? I don't know. But listen, all eyes now turn to Saturday's game. We'll be doing a full countdown to kick-off, a full match preview on Thursday. That'll be on Thursday afternoon. Should be myself and James and 1 or 2 other guys from the show. But generally speaking, James, what's your take on it now? The most important thing was get the 3 points today, and you can then relax knowing that whatever happens, you go into that game on Saturday top of the table with a chance to go and cement that position by getting the all-important win. But first of all, how do you think the players will be feeling about themselves now as they start the prep for that one in earnest?
I suppose it's the kind of short-term journey they've been on since the Hearts game. They'll have been pulled together after the Hearts game at Lennoxtown and just spoken to in terms of how we move forward from here because they were at a low ebb there and there's 4 games you've got to win and they're coming up thick and fast. So that's 2 in the bag, 2 big wins obviously the main one is coming on Saturday. So all they could do in terms of prep for Saturday is win the 2 games before it, and they've done that. So they go into it with kind of restored confidence. Yeah, I think that they're as good a place as they could be going into this. They've scored goals in the process. They've really, really stuck to Rodgers' instructions. That's one thing that's come out of the last 2 games. As hard as that can be to watch sometimes in terms of the slow build-up, it gets you into places to score the goals, and then they did score the goals. So I think they're in a good place going into that, and they're just heeding the conversations that were had after the Hearts game.
Yeah, I think what's important as well is of those last 2 games, you've scored 5 and conceded none. So we spoke about the weaknesses and how Celtic were conceding cheap goals, particularly from corners and set pieces. At least in the last couple of games, we've managed to put that to bed. And what we now have, I was not mocked, but there was comments made because I had highlighted that Celtic haven't won 3 games on the bounce at any point this season. You can call it negative from my point of view if you like. It's just the facts of the matter. I'm not particularly negative, but it's there on paper if you want to go and just check the stats. So whether you listen to me or not, that's a different story. But now there's an opportunity on Saturday, having won it against Livy, having won it Dundee today. There's no better time, James, than Saturday against Rangers, the New Year derby, to go and get that 3rd consecutive win.
That's it. Even if you take the fact that it's Rangers out, it's the consistency we're looking for. And you can't deny the stats. We haven't won 3 games in the bounce, albeit that's been European interruptions and cup exits and things like that. But now's the time. We know there's massive improvements to be made to this squad, and that points to other people at Parkhead rather than Brendan Rodgers. But the guys that are there are more than good enough to win this league, and they go a massive step towards that by winning Saturday. And I'm confident for it. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've maintained that. Celtic's form has been up and down. It has been poor, but I've got confidence in this team to step up in the big occasion. And Saturday is a big occasion. Listen, there's no more Europe for Celtic this season, so this is one of 3 remaining huge games league-wise, out with the other games that you need to take care of. But these are the biggies. These are the ones where you need to step up, and I'm quietly confident that Celtic will. Had it not been for the injury, you'd have maybe suggested that the 11 on Saturday might have been the 11 that we've seen line up today. There's now the question mark over Carter Vickers. But 2 questions for you. So I think it's San Fran has asked the question, should Tony Ralston get an opportunity over Alistair Johnston? And that's one for a quick debate just now. We'll get into it more in detail on Thursday. And secondly, what about Bernardo? Does he now take the confidence into this one and start there as that 3rd midfielder?
I suppose there's a 3rd question we'll need to discuss about Palma Maeda, but no, for me, San Fran, I think AJ starts on Saturday. It's a game he enjoys. There's plenty of physicality in there, and well, I would say that's a big strength of Tony Ralston as well, to be fair. But I just think Johnson's been playing. It's his shot to lose, and I don't think he's done enough to lose it. So he starts for me. Bernardo, barring any miracles, and Iwata coming back, Bernardo plays, and I think he's good for that kind of game. It's maybe a wee bit closer to a European game than today would have been. Rangers will be coming out. They have to come out. They can't just low block. So it'll give him opportunities to display his talents. Lots of breaking up. He does an awful lot of work off the ball. Give him credit for that, and that'll be more important against Rangers than it would have been against Dundee today. So that's I think it's yes for Bernardo and Alistair Johnston instead of Ralston. Palma. Maeda's got to start on the left, you know that. So where are you playing Palma?
On the right.
You don't play Mikey on the right, no?
I'd play Mikey right and left, given the choice, but I think he'll go like for like. But I think I mentioned this in an earlier recording that I think he might switch them at different times. So I think he'll use Maeda to pin in Tavernier, which has been the correct approach in all recent games against Rangers, by Ange. And I think that's the right move. But I think you could spell that with Palma taking a shot out in the left at different times as well, and just see how it plays out. I just, whether it's by default or otherwise, I do think it's got to be Palma and Maeda and whichever guys. I don't see any alternatives to that. I really don't. In terms of Bernardo, there's lots of comments that come in just when we were chatting about man of the match that several folk felt he was worthy of that accolade today, and fair enough. He's come in, as I say, he's got the all-important goal. He seems to do a bit of the, I don't want to say the water carrier job, but to to quote someone in the comments, puts out a lot of fires. That's his thing. He's not maybe quite as high up the park as maybe, you know, a number 10 would be. He seems to operate quite close to Calmac, a wee bit deeper than maybe you might see a Real Hatate, for example. So he's doing the job at both sides of the park. He's dealing with things defensively, and then he's getting up and supporting the attack, and no more so than his goal. He's obviously very high up the park at that moment in time to get the all-important winner. And if nothing else, if he does go on to start on Saturday, he'll be feeling better about himself, James. He'll be feeling confident. His Celtic career hasn't really kicked off, and to have any chance of having a future in Glasgow beyond his loan spell, he needs to have a huge next 6 months. And Saturday might be one of those days from one of those sliding doors moments.
I'd love to see it. I mean, there's talent in the boy. There's no denying that. We're just maybe not seeing the full application of it. I think there's periods in games where he just kind of disappears. He's not hiding. He's just not involved for patches, and that for me just isn't good enough. You know, if the ball's not coming your way, then look to get involved. You know, in other ways. That's why, you know, I couldn't really have him up for man of the match today, because I thought there were periods, you know, sweet 10 minutes here and there that he just wasn't involved. And I need my attacking midfields to be involved in every single attack. There's so many attacks in that game. He's got to be involved in almost all of them. But yeah, I think there's talent there. It would be amazing if he can really bring that to the table on Saturday, take the grip of a game. I think O'Reilly needs that as well. You know, a game where he just runs it. I think O'Reilly's very effective and very talented, but I'm really looking for him to dominate a game. And I think either or both of those doing that on Saturday would be a sight to see.
Yeah, I thought O'Reilly was okay today. It wasn't his brilliant best, and
Much like Ronaldo.
yeah, maybe so. And I think, as I said, you know, I've mentioned about Kyogo. I'd love to think that O'Reilly's just keeping his best for Saturday. Listen, by design, he's not holding anything back today. He's giving his best today, but hopefully he's got that drive and that performance level to get to on Saturday, which can really change the game. And O'Reilly and other guys like him, they are game changers. That's what they do. You know, if you like Louis Palmer or not, that's absolutely fine. He is capable of changing games. He's got that in him. Even Dyson Maeda, for all his frustration, can change games. Kyogo can change games. There's lots of guys on this Celtic side who have got the ability on the occasion to spin a game on its head. So we'll see how that all comes about come Saturday. And as I say, we'll spend plenty of time on that. We'll do an extended preview on Thursday. That'll be here on YouTube and on podcast version for everybody. But in the meantime, James, as we start to wrap this one up, your final thoughts on Celtic's win against Dundee?
It's a pressure game today against an experienced manager and a well-organised team that stuck to their task well. So it was a real challenge to make sure we got the 3 points. I mean, it would be unthinkable to not come away from Dundee with 3 points today. So there's pressure on the players to deliver that, and they did it, and that sets us all up for Saturday. So a win on Saturday, win against St Mirren, enjoy your winter break, get to work, Mark Lowell.
Yeah, very much so. There was pressure on the players ahead of the Livy game, you know, having lost 2 in the bounce in the league. There was pressure today, as you say. They had to win at all costs, and they've done that. And as I say, 3-0 maybe looks more comfortable than it was, but Celtic were certainly worthy of the win. So all eyes now turn to that big game on Saturday. As mentioned several times now, we'll be doing the big preview on Thursday. We'll have that live on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. But in the meantime, for myself and James, hope you've had a great Christmas. Hope you enjoyed that one today eventually, and we'll see you all again very soon.